In this lesson, we will cover the following main ideas. First, we will examine the Byzantine Empire, which is the term for the eastern half of the Roman Empire that survived after the fall of the West. We will examine how the Emperor Justinian laid the foundations for the success of the empire, but also left many problems. We will then discuss how a distinct form of Christianity developed in the Byzantine Empire. We will finish our examination of the Byzantine Empire by seeing what caused it to decline and ultimately fall in 1453. We will then see how the development of Russia was strongly influenced by Byzantine culture and religion. Finally, we will see how the Seljuk Turks established a presence in the Middle East in the 1100s. In the AD 300s, the Roman Emperor Constantine was worried about the growing power of the German tribes on Rome's northern borders. He therefore moved the capital of the empire to the Greek port city of Byzantium in the east. This location was easier to defend and put him closer to the wealthier eastern provinces of the empire. He rebuilt the city into a glorious new capital named Constantinople in his honor. The western half of the Roman Empire was eventually overrun by Germanic tribes and ceased to exist after 476. Centered on Constantinople, the eastern half remained strong. The people of this area thought of themselves as the Eastern Roman Empire, but historians refer to it as the Byzantine Empire, to reflect that it was more strongly influenced by Greek culture. In 527, Justinian became the Byzantine emperor. He taxed the people heavily and was initially so unpopular that the people rose up against him in 532 in the Nika Rebellion. Justinian crushed the revolt and then launched a massive program of building and military conquest. Justinian hoped to restore the Roman Empire. He sent armies to Italy, Spain, and North Africa. After a series of long and bloody wars, by 550 he had managed to double the size of his empire and regain control of much of Western Europe. Unfortunately, later rulers could not afford to defend these territories, and they were gradually lost to invaders. At home, Justinian built up the city of Constantinople with baths, aqueducts, and schools. He also rebuilt the city's defenses. Justinian's greatest passion was building churches. His beautiful churches showed the close connection between church and state in his empire. The crowning glory of his reign was the Hagia Sophia, which means holy wisdom in Greek. With its massive dome and interior lined with gold, the Hagia Sophia was an incredible architectural achievement and a powerful demonstration of the religious faith of the emperor and his people. Justinian's greatest accomplishment was supervising the creation of a complete code of laws based on the laws of ancient Rome. The Justinian Code covered all aspects of life, such as marriages, wills, and crimes. It eventually worked its way to Western Europe and had a huge influence on the legal systems of countries like Italy and France. The monarchs who followed Justinian ruled with absolute power. Byzantine emperors controlled both the state and the church, and had complete authority over their subjects. The Byzantine Empire grew wealthy from trade and agriculture. Constantinople was strategically located along key trade routes and became one of the largest and richest cities in the world. Its markets were filled with goods from all over the world. Like the ancient Roman emperors, Byzantine rulers sponsored free public entertainment for the population. The Hippodrome in Constantinople was a massive stadium in which chariot races and circuses took place. The Byzantine Empire placed a high value on learning and education. Young people studied Greek philosophy and science, and Byzantine scholars copied and studied classical texts. The modern world owes Byzantine scholars a huge debt for preserving many of the great works of Greece and Rome, and many modern scholars feel this is the greatest legacy of the empire. When the Byzantine Empire began to weaken in the 1400s, many Greek scholars left Constantinople to teach in Italian universities. They brought valuable manuscripts to the West, along with their knowledge of Greek and Byzantine culture. The work of these scholars contributed greatly to the European Renaissance. The Byzantine Empire was a Christian empire, and religion played an important role in every aspect of Byzantine life. After the fall of the western half of the Roman Empire, Christianity in the West and the East developed differently. In the West, the Pope emerged as the leader of the Church, but in the East, the Byzantine emperors controlled the Church. Under them were the most powerful bishops, called patriarchs. Disputes over leadership and doctrines eventually led the two churches to officially split in 1054. After this, the Church in the West became known as the Roman Catholic Church. This was a reflection of the strong influence of Latin on the Western Church. In the East, the Church became known as Eastern Orthodox. Unlike the Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church conducted services in Greek instead of Latin and allowed priests to marry. Byzantine missionaries traveled north to convert the Slavic peoples of Eastern Europe and Russia to the Orthodox Church. Saint Cyril worked among the Slavs in the 9th century and invented an alphabet for the Slavic languages. With an alphabet, Slavs would be able to read the Bible in their own languages. Many Slavic languages, including Russian, are now written in what is called the Cyrillic alphabet. Besides religion, Orthodox missionaries helped bring Byzantine culture and art into Slavic lands. Byzantine art and architecture were strongly influenced by both Christianity and the legacy of the Roman Empire. Most Byzantine art focused on religious images of saints and other holy figures. Although very detailed, these works were not realistic because their emphasis was spiritual. Much Byzantine art took the form of mosaics, an art form that was popular in the Roman Empire. Mosaics are pictures created with tiny colored tiles of glass, stone, or clay, fitted together and cemented in place. Mosaics decorated the floors, walls, and ceilings of many Byzantine buildings. Byzantine architecture made extensive use of arches, columns, and domes. The greatest examples of Byzantine architecture are its churches. The Byzantine style of architecture, especially its use of the dome, influenced building throughout Europe and Asia. Despite its appearance of wealth and strength, the Byzantine Empire faced many problems. Justinian's conquests and building projects had been very expensive and drained much of the empire's wealth. In the 530s, a terrible epidemic referred to as Justinian's plague struck the empire. The disease had probably been brought to Constantinople along trade routes from Asia. From the capital city, it spread rapidly throughout the empire. Millions of people died before the plague finally faded around the year 700. Historians estimate that as much as half of the population of the empire was killed by the plague. The smaller population left the empire weak and unable to defend itself. The empire had many enemies who attacked from all directions. Germanic tribes and Slavs struck the empire's northern borders. Persians hit the eastern borders, and Arab armies attacked from the south. These assaults gradually wore the empire down and took its territory away piece by piece. By the middle of the 1300s, the Byzantine Empire had been reduced to the tip of Anatolia and a strip of land in southeastern Europe. Thanks to its walls and strategic location, Constantinople held out for another 100 years. Finally, the city fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. The Byzantine Empire had officially ended. Russia's original inhabitants were the Slavs, who lived in small communities and engaged in fishing, farming, hunting, and trade along Russia's many long rivers. In the 800s, a group of Vikings called the Rus invaded Russia from the north. They built forts and trading posts along Russia's rivers. Two of these developed into Russia's first important cities, Novgorod and Kiev. The Rus began to trade with Constantinople. They brought furs and timber, as well as their Slavic subjects whom they sold as slaves. In fact, the word slave comes from Slav. Over time, the Rus and Slavs melded together and became one people. Like medieval Europe, the society was sharply divided between a great mass of peasants and a small group of wealthy, landowning nobles, called boyars. Trade with Constantinople brought Byzantine art, culture, and religion to Russia. In the 900s, the rulers of the city of Kiev adopted Byzantine Christianity and forced all their subjects to convert. The princes of Kiev built churches and modeled their government on the Byzantine Empire, with a single absolute ruler who controlled both the church and the state. In the 1200s, Russia was invaded by an army of Mongols from Central Asia. The Mongols were nomadic warriors from the steppe, the plains that stretched from East Asia to Eastern Europe. The Mongols' ferocity and skill at fighting from horseback enabled them to terrorize much of Europe and Asia. In the 1230s and 1240s, a Mongol force swept into Russia and conquered the region. They destroyed the city of Kiev and caused great destruction and loss of life. The Mongols established an empire in Russia called the Khanate of the Golden Horde. The name derives from Khanate, the Mongol word for kingdom, golden because gold was the royal color of the Mongols, and horde from the Mongol word for camp. Mongol rule had many important effects on Russia. Although the Mongols converted to Islam, they did not interfere with the Russian Orthodox Church, which gained more power and influence during this period. The Mongol conquest also brought peace and unity to Russia. Russian merchants and artisans benefited from access to new trade routes that the Mongols opened across Eurasia. Just as the supreme authority of the Byzantine emperors had inspired them earlier, later Russian rulers found a useful model in the absolute power of the Mongols. Russian princes developed a strong desire to centralize their own power without interference from nobles, the clergy, or merchants. Most important, Mongol rule cut Russia off from contacts with Western Europe at a time when Europeans were making rapid advances in the arts and sciences. As a result, when the Russians finally overthrew the Mongols, they found they were far behind the West in terms of military and economic developments. This would lead to a drive to modernize Russia and end its backwardness that would continue well into the 20th century. During the Mongol period, the princes of the city of Moscow steadily increased their power. Their success was due in part to the city's location near important river trade routes. They used their position as tribute collectors for the Mongols to increase their wealth and either bribe or conquer neighboring towns and provinces. When the Patriarch, or chief official of the Russian Orthodox Church, made Moscow his base, the city became not just Russia's political center, but its spiritual center as well. As Mongol power declined, the princes of Moscow took on a new role as patriotic defenders of Russia against foreign rule. They had to fend off attacks from the west by Germanic warriors, and in the 1300s and 1400s, they successfully defeated the Mongols and forced them out of Russia, ending over 2 centuries of foreign rule. A driving force behind Moscow's success in the 1400s was the cunning prince Ivan III, known as Ivan the Great. During his 43-year reign, he brought most of northern Russia under the rule of Moscow and laid the foundation for absolute rule. After he married the niece of the last Byzantine emperor, Ivan adopted Byzantine court rituals to emphasize Russia's role as the heir to the legacy of the Byzantine Empire, which fell in 1453 when the Ottoman Turks conquered the city of Constantinople. Like the Byzantine emperors, he used a double-headed eagle as his symbol, and sometimes referred to himself as Tsar, the Russian word for Caesar. Ivan drove the Mongols from Russia, ending 300 years of foreign rule. He and his successors would build a new empire in Russia based on Moscow. One of the greatest threats to the Byzantine Empire came from the Turks, a nomadic people from the vast grasslands of Central Asia. The Turks originally lived by herding sheep and goats, and engaging in raids and trade with other people. Beginning in the 900s, they began moving into the Middle East and gradually converted to Islam. The Turks were fierce and highly skilled fighters. Rulers in the Middle East bought Turkish children as slaves and trained them to be warriors. These Turkish slave soldiers became known as Mamelukes, and their influence and power gradually increased. In many areas, the Mamelukes overthrew local leaders and seized power for themselves. In the late 900s, large numbers of Turks migrated into the Middle East. These Turks were called the Seljuks after the family that led them. In 1055, the Seljuks conquered the rich and important city of Baghdad and established an empire that stretched across modern-day Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, and Israel. As Seljuk power expanded, they came into conflict with the Byzantine Empire. In 1071, the Seljuk Turks won a major victory against the Byzantines at the Battle of Manzikert. The Turks gained control over almost all of Anatolia, which greatly increased their power while severely weakening the Byzantine Empire. From their strongholds in Anatolia, the Seljuks launched repeated attacks against Constantinople that contributed to wearing down and weakening the Byzantine Empire. In ruling their empire, the Seljuks relied on their Persian subjects for help. The Persians had an ancient and advanced civilization. The Seljuks placed their capital in the Persian city of Isfahan and placed Persians in important positions in the government. In this way, the Seljuks gained the loyalty and support of the Persians. The Turks also adopted Persian culture. They looked to Persian scholars for guidance in practicing Islam, and they began to use the Persian language for literature and education. Turkish rulers even adopted Shah, the Persian word for king, as their title. The greatest Seljuk ruler was Malik Shah, who ruled from 1072 to 1092. He was a great supporter of the arts. Just as Justinian built many beautiful churches in Constantinople, Malik Shah had grand mosques and other structures built in Isfahan. After the death of Malik Shah, the Seljuk Empire quickly declined. The rulers who came after Malik Shah were very weak. As a result, the empire broke up into smaller kingdoms ruled by powerful warlords. The Seljuks also faced pressure from external threats. From 1095 to the late 1200s, Christians from Western Europe sent armies to reconquer the Middle East in a series of military campaigns known as the Crusades. Although the Turks defeated the Crusaders, these wars weakened the Seljuks. Just when the Crusades became less of a threat, the Mongols from Central Asia invaded the lands of the Seljuks. Like in Russia, the Mongols caused great destruction and killed thousands of people. In 1258, the Mongols captured Baghdad and ended the empire of the Seljuks. And now that we have completed this lesson, examine the questions on this slide. After I finish speaking, pause the video and see if you can answer them based on what you have heard. Use this as a way to help you review for the assessments.